We're going to start things off with a prayer from grassroots grandmother and water walker Doreen Bernard. And then we're going to do some songs. And I just want to remind people that during the Mi'kmaq Honor Song, all cameras need to be turned off. All right? And so I would like to call up Doreen Bernard, water walker, grassroots grandmother, somebody who's been down at the wharf for over a week, to the stage.
Kwe Kasadam Dandali Olnaway, Gilnip Clan, Spaganagady. I just want to say thank you to all who have come here today for support for Spaganagady and our fishers and Mi'kmaq treaty rights. I'd like to just say a prayer to give thanks. Just take a moment. Gisulg, grandmothers, grandfathers of the four directions. Please hear our humble prayer. We give thanks for this day, for allowing us to be here, to gather. We give thanks to Mother Earth for all that she provides for us to live. We give thanks to the water, the spirit of the water that's inside all of you. I ask you to connect that spirit of the water for the prayers for the water on Mother Earth. We give thanks for all our human family here and everywhere. The four-legged, the winged ones, the swimmers, the crawlers, the plants, the trees, the rocks, all that enable us to live today. We give thanks for the courage of our hearts, our female energy, and of our minds, our male energy, that is the potential for healing. We pray today for the safety, protection of all our people that are out on the water, and all our supporters, all the people who come to support the fishers that are exercising their treaty rights to fish, to make a living. We pray for leadership, those that are in leadership. We pray for the elders, the children, the men and women, and those that are yet to be born, that are still in spirit, that they'll have a safe and a loving and a clean environment to come into. I ask Creator to bless each and every one that are here and their families, and those that are down at Saulnieville, and those that are at home. We need that protection. Surround us with that light, white light of protection, and guide us. We ask our ancestors to guide us, guide our words, our actions, our thoughts, for the good of all. Thank you. We're going to sing we'd like to invite the people that would like to drum, sing the honor song.
Thank you so much, and thank everyone here for being so respectful and hopefully singing along a bit. I do want to call Doreen back up because, she definitely is a water walker and a very spiritual person, but we also want her to testify to what she has been experiencing being at the wharf and talk a bit more about the struggle. So, back to Doreen.
Oh, thank you. Yes, so I went down last week on Tuesday when those traps, when the commercial fishers put the traps in front of the wharf to try to stop our people from being there. And by the time I got there, they had already left. But it was, I think, it was preparing me for what was coming, because that was like somebody to put things in front of you to block your spirit, just like that. So what happened the next day? People were getting ready to go out fishing as they normally did, and there was a lot of animosity, a lot of people gathering on the wharf, and they actually pulled in behind the people that were already parked there, and intimidating. You know, when I went down there, there was a young girls were there, and there was about 7 trucks pulled in with people who were drinking and saying things to these young girls, and it was really a really fearful time. I was saying I fear for those young girls, and we just happened to be back there to protect them and to call the police and to ask for the police to come down to talk to these people. They weren't even from Saulneyville. They were from on the other side of the Yarmouth. But it was really hard for us to feel safe there as women, and even as so. I just we've been praying a lot and doing ceremony there, praying all throughout this past week, and I thank all the people, all the spiritual pipe carriers, and all the people that came down, the Sundancers, and all the people who did ceremony with us and for us, and even are still doing that today for the protection of our people. And on the day they went out on on Thursday, they were surrounded by hundreds of boats, huge commercial fishing vessels. So I don't think they fish in them waters. It looks like they might have been fishing offshore. They're huge commercial vessels, and they were surrounding those little boats. And as a grandmother and as a mother of a fisherman down there, it was really heart wrenching just to be standing there helpless on the rocks, just watching, what they were doing, and there was no law. I think Indigenous people have a law, and there's Canadian law, and we've all experienced, racism, systemic racism. We've all experienced these things throughout our lives. I remember growing up when we were fighting against for our rights to live. We were fighting since I was a kid, and then when we were fighting for our rights, we were fighting for the residential school. As a survivor, big family that comes from from the residential school legacy. We look at how far back this has been going and all the struggles that we've won in your courts, in Canadian courts, to prove our existence, our rights and titles to our lands. And it was so hard to see that we've won even cases in the highest courts of this land. We won that were being infringed upon again. It's like how what do we need to do? I don't want to see anyone die from 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 this. And those are young people. I looked around. We have people that are older, that have been struggling and doing these fights for hunting rights, for fishing rights, for I mean, we have history. You see what happened in 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 Escanobidich. You see what happened in Listugush. You see now what's happening in Sibaganegati and in Mi'kmaq. All through Mi'kmaq, we have fought for our own existence, our rights to live, our rights to live off our own lands and waters, to make a living, to be here. We've been here for 13,500 years. Why can't they understand the history? And I'll tell you, because you were never taught that. You were never taught this history in schools. We have many people that are just learning about residential schools, about our rights. They ask questions all the time, and we're ready to answer any questions from people. We don't see that as being ignorant, wanting to know the truth because it was never taught. That's the biggest crisis right now is that some of the curriculum, we're still fighting to get the curriculum into the schools. Many people are here today because they've educated themselves, or they came out when we talked about the treaties and we talked about protecting our lands and waters and what that meant, and that we are treaty people. We need to do this all together because you live here too. This is your water, this is your land too. And we are sharing all we can. And we ask people to educate yourself. There's many things that have recently been posted, about the treaties, about our history, about Acadian history. The Mi'kmaq helped the Acadian people, and now they're down there. The ones that are there flying their flags and being so violent and hateful and disrespectful. It's it's really. It's really hard when you're there and you hear what they're saying and how they're acting. And but we stood our ground. We stood in front of them and we prayed for them. We stood there and we prayed and drummed and sang. And I told those young people that were all getting all agitated. I said, don't let them take that from your spirit. Don't let them win. And there's a lot of anger because we've been put in this position again. But there's also a lot of peace, a lot of love that we experience here today by all the people that are here. And it's not everyone. It's not every non-native person down there. We have a lot of support from a lot of people, and they say they're ashamed, the way that they're acting, and that's not us. That doesn't represent us. It's just the same as what we say when we're put into a negative light, stereotyped, or there's somebody that's not acting in a good way. It's not all of us. We have to understand that, But racism is learned, just like your education. You are taught to hate. Children, those little children that are running around, they don't hate anyone. It's something that is taught by your family. And then when you leave your family and go into the school system and your friends and all the other I guess, influences in your life. But it also can be untaught too. What we learn, we can learn, unlearn. We can recognize those things as negative influences in our lives. Just like when you give up a bad habit and you do something to better your life, for your good health, long life, happiness, your help, understanding, all those things. So I just, when I witnessed some of the things, were said, some of the things were done, you know, we've seen this before lots of times. And the older you get, you don't get, it's still hard. We never get used to that. Nobody should. Nobody should get used to that hate and violence. And now today we are here. This is a historic moment for our community in Semakinagadi, but all of Mi'kma'ki. And people know that we are asserting our rights to our lands, our waters, our resources, our right to make a livelihood, our right to be, to exist as Mi'kmaq people. So we thank everybody who's come here to be with us and to support us. I'd like to ask Michelle if she could come up and say a few words. Thank you.
I see tears in my elder's eyes when she handed me this mic. Yeah, it's historical times that we're in and very emotional times as well. I was asked to speak, to center my talk on the treaties. And I'll touch on, I'll just give a quick rundown on it the best that I can. Because honestly, our history is, it's not elusive. You can all find it for yourselves. We have something called Google. We still have libraries and public records exist of the original treaties that were signed hundreds of years ago. They do exist. We do exist. The irony that we would still be fighting hundreds of years later, it's mind-boggling. But I guess I'll start here. And I'm serious when I say this. When you think of when the settlers first came here on these boats, let's ask a question. What did they bring on those boats? Well, they brought a few things. They brought sickness, not just physical. I think a spiritual and a spiritual sickness as well, a mindset, an attitude. Because over there across the water, they believed in concepts that are foreign to us, like ownership of property, of land. In Mi'kmaq, we have a term, Naduglamunk. I hope I said that right. See, I'm not a fluent speaker. I hold a lot of shame. I didn't learn my language. But this term to us means reciprocation, reciprocity, relationship, giving, sharing of the land and whatnot. So we didn't know what it meant to own things. They brought that over. One thing they didn't bring over is land. I think we can all agree that the land was already here and the people were already here. land in that boat. We all agree on that, even the little one there. We can all agree on that. But part of that sickness and that mindset, that attitude of owning property and their laws, they also brought that too. They brought their laws and the way of conducting their dominion, their domination, colonialism. See, but when you read the history and the treaties, you read it as a starting point. 1700s, such and such a treaty was signed. It's a covenant chain of treaties. They all were ratified on top of each other, so they all had equal significance and importance. But when you read the history, there's a starting point, of when, Eurocentric perspective of when they came over. History didn't start there. Doreen told you, we've been here. Our people been here. Not just that, but we had our own laws and our own ways of living. Our ancestral governance structures still exist to this day. And that's our ways of dealing with each other, other nations, of trade and of reciprocity and sharing and respect, living off the land. Those are our laws, the natural laws. They were here too, and they still are here. So, when we talk about treaties, and Sakura, I'm trying to center this talk on treaties because you did ask me to do that. There's a few pivotal moments in our history, and I really wish that you all, especially the little ones, I wish that you can learn not just the dates, but learn what happened and why it was happening in the 1700s when we signed those treaties. Yes, they were a peace and friendship. What did that mean? It meant that there were hostilities in our territory. And we were defending our lands and our water from these hostilities. It means war. There was war happening here between two nations that came on that boat, the French and the Briton people. They warred and they claimed lands, and the French, the Acadians, they had settlements called Acadia and Louisbourg and Cape Breton, and the French didn't like that. They wanted dominion, They wanted power and control over our territory. Well, as those histories tell us, when the British won the war, so to speak, I guess I should say that for the most part, the Mi'kmaq were allied with the French in those wars. The French-Indian War is one of them. When the British won, so to speak, they kicked the Acadians out of here. Dory mentioned the expulsion. I think 1755, I believe. They kicked them out of here, and it was our people who came to their rescue and helped them and hid them and took them into our tribe. Think about that. When I think about treaty, I want to ask you all, what does treaty mean to you? What does that word mean to you? Doreen touched on it. What's that?
Sacred agreements.
Sacred agreements. Anyone else? Peace. Friendship. Tranquility. Obligations. All of these things. You know what it means to me? Our people try to show the newcomers how to be a good neighbor, how to be a true human. In fact, up there at the courthouse, at the burying of the hatchet ceremony, that was a ceremony to mark the signing of the treaties, our chief said to their chief, "We do not believe you to be true human." Think about those words. What does that mean? The spirit of love and kindness and giving, all of the suffering and violence and hatred that our people endure for hundreds and hundreds of years. Being in relationship with each other, sharing, giving, being a good neighbor. That's what the treaties represent to me. How do we do that? I don't know that we ever learned as a collective to do that. I know a lot of responsibility has fallen on our tribe to show people how to be human. There's no other way to say it. Because anytime you have the courts, thank you for lighting the sage, Doreen, because it's getting heavy here now. Anytime you have the courts upholding our rights, which is supposed to be the highest law of this land, it's time to catch up. Catch up. That's 21 years ago, the Marshall decision. You know, we've endured. Our people are so resilient. Don't just see that? They're so resilient. It's quite remarkable, and it's so beautiful, and I'm so filled with pride of being a Mi'kmaq woman to bear witness to this time in history, because it's history being made. Those treaties that were signed represented our inherent rights to fish and hunt and to roam free. Full intere liberté is the term. Roam free on our lands without molestation or being hindered and all these other British words. But we know what they mean. It means let us be free. Our sovereign right to exist, to feed ourselves. So I guess I digress a bit, but I'll get back to the treaties, Sakar. The 1700s, almost 100 years of treaty making that our nation did. And the Wabanaki Confederacy was not just the Mi'kmaq. We had the Penobscot, the Passamaquoddy, the Abenaki, and the Maliseet. That's the Confederacy that exercised our rights on this territory. You see our Mi'kmaq brothers and sisters exercising the rights on the water today, but make no mistake, all of these tribes were part of history and signing those treaties. Our first Grand Chief, Gabriel Syliboy, rest in power, he was arrested for hunting pelts. Not only arrested, he was convicted. In 1927, 1928, he was convicted. That's like almost over 100 years ago. He exercised his right to the 1752 treaty to hunt and fish, but he was convicted. Fast forward to 1981, I believe, when a member of Spaganagadik, James Simon, exercised his rights to hunting as well. He was charged, but he took his fight all the way to the Supreme Court and he won. Again, asserting our treaty rights. And because he won, they had no choice but to look back on Gabriel Syliboy's case and overturn it, right? And I will say, too, that 3 years ago, I think 2017, 3 years ago, they pardoned Gabriel Syliboy after his death. He's with our ancestors now, but it took that long for them to issue that apology, right? So then after James Simon, we have Donald Marshall Jr. He went fishing eels, and he was charged. I think that was in the 90s. In the 90s, he did that. In his case, again, the famous, infamous case, the Marshall decision, upheld in the Supreme Court of Canada, again, the so-called highest law of this land, that he was in his full rights to not only fish those eels, but to exercise his right to sell them too. Moderate livelihood, the term moderate livelihood, you hear it in the news now. And what does that mean? One of these reporters asked me earlier, what does it mean to me? And I'll try to be simple here and say, it makes me think of that saying, give someone a fish and they'll eat for a day, teach someone to fish, and then what? They'll eat for a lifetime? Well, for me, it's a matter of surviving. You eat that fish for one day, or thriving, eaten for a lifetime. And I think that's what moderate livelihood is about. The ability to thrive on our own homelands. Imagine hundreds of years fighting for the right to not just survive, but to thrive. In a nutshell, that's what it is. So when we sang that honor song, we called on all of our beautiful ancestors to come and be with us today. All of our ancestors to come here and share this space. And I must say the energy in this space is just so beautiful. Do you feel it? Do you feel it? We feel it. It's beautiful. What's happening out on the waters now? I was asked by the reporter, is this a watershed moment? Our whole existence is a watershed moment. It really is. The fact that we're still here, right? I'm sorry if it was you that asked me that question, but it's the truth, right? We are witnessing history. And to go back to the concepts of treaty, I want you to place that in your mind, what treaty means to you, about being in relationship with each other. We've seen in the last week, we've seen a lot. We've seen some behavior very unbecoming of human beings. We've seen that, eh? And a lot of shame, as Doreen mentioned, a lot of people are feeling a lot of shame to see that behavior. But also, when you think about treaty and you're thinking about that relationship, her words stood out to me when she said, it's not your fault that you didn't learn the truth. Is it, I say the truth. It is the truth. The truth of the matter is that we've always been here. We've always had our own laws and our own ways, and we always will. The other side of the coin is the government. They got to catch up. They really do. It's Did you guys hear that speech from the throne? Is that what it's called? Yeah, you hear when they say all those words on Indigenous relationships and the word reconciliation, and I always say reconciliation with a W. Make it make sense. Make it make sense that they're talking about reconciliation when our people are out there on the waters being threatened for exercising the right that existed all this time. Make it make sense. That's right. Doreen says the criminalization of our people for asserting our rights and not being protected by the law of this land, it's absurd. But not to mention too, when you read the treaties, read the part about being protected, providing protection to allies and whatnot. There's a lot of interesting phrases in the treaties. Really, there are. I guess I'll wrap it up because I see Sakura say, Michelle, you talk too much. I never know what I'm going to say. And Doreen, we always say to each other, just speak from your heart. And she's called on me and my daughter to come do ceremony at the river and then to head down to our relatives. So I'm going to wrap it up with saying this. All of these little ones that are out there today, look how many young people are here. Look at you. Look at you learning. Look at you being a good, true human. Look at you. All your parents role modeling that behavior and that good spirit and that kind, loving spirit. It's beautiful. It's these little ones that are going to take it through the future, And I call upon everybody who's here, as Doreen said, to unlearn what you were told. Unlearn it. And when you relearn the truth, when you relearn what happened back then and what's happening now, you will be on the right side of history, my friend. You will. Lalio, Sinogma.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you so much for that history. And that's a huge reason why we've come here. We've come here to learn. So much of the hatred that's being fomented right now is based on a lot of misinformation about treaties, misinformation about conservation. And I think it's really telling that, you know, all of us here organizing this rally are environmentalists. And yet they try to use the conservation argument against Mi'kmaq people asserting their rights to a moderate livelihood.
I don't want to interrupt her, but I want to call on an awesome speaker, if they will come in and impart some words of wisdom and courage and inspiration to all of you. Can I? Raven, can you please come and bless us with your wisdom and impart some good words for us?
And right before Raven comes and speaks, thank you so much, I just want to make a note that we're going to be passing around a donation basket. And a lot of people have been donating a lot of goods to the people on the front line at the wharf, and that is so wonderful. But lots of times there's just little gaps that people can fill on the ground there. And so we're going to be giving any donations, cash donations that we collect to Doreen, who will use it for to spend, you know, on ceremonial things that she needs to get as she's been doing ceremony down there, and also just, you know, fill the gaps and make it so that it's comfortable for the frontliners and they don't have to pay out of pocket for everything. So I just wanted to make that note that we're going to be passing around the basket. So please, I know a lot of you don't have cash. It's COVID, but you know. But thank you so much, Raven.
Miigwech. Miigwech, Doreen and Michelle. Michelle asked me 3 times. Said, I've asked you 3 times. You'll have to speak for sure. I have nothing really prepared, so I'm just going to do what my sisters have told me, and is that to just speak from my truth. I'm Anishinaabe. I'm here on Mi'kmaq land. I have a responsibility to my communities and to my extendeds to honor and uphold the treaties that their ancestors signed. And I guess for all of us here, the thing that I want everyone to take away is that we actually are all responsible for making sure the Mi'kmaq have a livelihood. We are responsible for that. My youngest son, my kids are Anishinaabe, Mi'kmaq, and Afro-Indigenous, and our extended family community is in Membertou, and I worked in that community for quite a long time, and I remember Donald Marshall coming in to come and eat at Giju's, which is a restaurant at the Trading Convention Center. And he used to love that place. And I remember my kids being around and thinking, oh my gosh, Donald Marshall Jr. is in my store, is talking to me. This man has gone through everything for his people. And I don't want his legacy to just be left at the wayside. Everyone needs to know this Marshall decision. Everyone needs to learn this history. It's very important. There's no negotiation. We're not negotiating here. Negotiating is over. We're standing in. Elizabeth Marshall this week reminded me, you know, when you're looking at conservation, let's look at the commercial fishery first, not the livelihood fishery, the commercial fishery. I was very grateful for that reminder. And a few weeks ago, getting back to my son, he asked me what I thought about him becoming a lobster fisherman. And if anyone knows anyone who does lobster fishing, it's an extremely dangerous thing to do. And I've met some people here that were down at the wharf this past week. And the threat of those boats in the water and with so many people around, including children, my heart just broke. I was so angry. Masses of people like this, looking at you, staring at you, making comments. You know, the first few days, the RCMP had their hands in their pocket. When 7 months ago, when we were at Wet'suwet'en territory, they brought in the RCMP Emergency Task Force with automated rifles, pointing them at us, protecting our land, protecting our rights. You know, part of that peace and friendship treaty is peace. It's peace. There was no one from Canada upholding that treaty in this past week because part of that treaty is peace. And what was happening down there was extremely violent. It was extremely threatening. And here we are in Halifax with the largest military Navy base a few blocks away, and nobody could go out on a boat. Nobody could. We're talking about protecting a country, and you can't protect a small wharf down in Digby? Like, these are the questions we got to be asking ourselves. So again, please, you know, much respect, due respect to everyone on the front lines that are down there, that are feeding those fishers. And please, we all have a responsibility to uphold this treaty. So please do your part. Miigwech.
Thank you so much for speaking, Raven. So we actually made a lot of really great chants for the rally today. So do you guys want to learn some new chants? All right. So this one, the second verse is kind of the new part. It's a classic. So let's do it all together. It just goes, where are we, Mi'kmaq, respect Indigenous sovereignty? Where are we, Mi'kmaq, on the land and on the sea? You guys got that? All right. Where are we, Mi'kmaq, respect Indigenous sovereignty? Where are we, Mi'kmaq, on the land and on the sea? Where are we, Mi'kmaq? Indigenous sovereignty. Where are we? Mi'kmaq, on the land and on the sea. And of course, that is unceded Mi'kmaq. We're an unceded land. We have treaties that tells us how we're supposed to relate to each other. But this is unceded land. This is Mi'kmaq. All right. This one is on the conservation one. Raven did a little jab at Clearwater. We got to talk about who's really the conservation threat and why it's a red herring to kind of point that finger at Mi'kmaq people asserting their rights. So Mi'kmaq fishing is a right. Clearwater is who we need to fight. And open gas, but that's not part of the channel. Mi'kmaq fishing is a right. Clearwater's who we need to fight. Mi'kmaq fishing is a right. Clearwater's who we need to fight. Mi'kmaq fishing is a right. right, this is a singing one. So we'll see, how brave you guys are. I don't trust my singing voice, so I'm trying to be brave right now. Whoops. Okay, so this one's to the tune of Pink Floyd. We don't need no education. But of course we flipped it up because it's apparent we need a lot of education, right? Like especially us settlers, we need a lot of education, a little re-education. So it goes. These fishers need some education. On treaty rights the courts uphold. Hey, settlers, leave them boats alone. All right, so can we do that one together? All right. These fishers need some education. On treaty rights the courts uphold. Hey, settlers, leave them boats alone. Okay, and at this time, I do want to say it's kind of an emergency announcement that I just got texted from Mi'kmaq warriors saying that they need backup at the wharf. 300 racist fishermen are supposed to come here today. And so that was a pretty recent announcement. And I just want to let you guys know that, there's a lot of Mi'kmaq people here, there's a lot of settlers here, and settlers are welcome there. You come in a good way to support. And so those who are able, that has been the call. So just letting people know that. Okay, the next person that we have up to speak is Joanna Bull. Her uncle was actually part of negotiations between Mi'kmaq fishers and settlers 20 years ago, and she has a story to share.
Hi, everybody. I'm really humbled to speak today, and I'm not going to take up a lot of space. I am a guest in this territory, and my ancestors and I have all benefited greatly from colonization, and I'm trying to reverse that legacy in my own lifetime. So I want to tell a story that my uncle told me. My uncle's Arthur Bull. Some of you might know Arthur. He lives on Digby Neck, and 20 years ago, he was one of the mediators who was working to build bridges between the native and non-native fishermen in that area so that another burnt church wouldn't happen there. Burnt church had just happened. And they did a lot of really good work to bring the non-native fishermen into the room to sit and listen. It was not easy to make that happen. But they got them in the room, sitting in a circle with the Mi'kmaq fishermen and the non-Indigenous fishermen. And you can picture it, right? Like, these men are bristling with mistrust and anger and misunderstanding. And the elder made them sit in a circle and passed an eagle feather around the circle and said, "Tell a story about your grandfather." I've never told this story without crying. By the time the feather made it around the circle, every man in that room was in tears. And the next day, when the Mi'kmaq fishermen went out in the same waters to fish, there was a ring of the non-Indigenous boats around them to protect them, to make sure that they would be able to fish. That's how this is supposed to work. That's what peace and friendship can look like. I'm so grateful to everybody who spoke. about the history, because we need to remember our history. We need to remember who we are as people, as human beings, and that each other is not the enemy here. I think the one thing that is true is that all the fishermen there want there to be fish in the future. They want there to be fish for the future generations, for their children and their grandchildren to fish. And the only way that's going to happen is if we can work together in peace and friendship like that, to protect the treaty right to fish, to work together to get rid of Clearwater and these vertically integrated, massive industrial fishing fleets that are fishing the life out of the ocean. We have to remember our humanity. And I know there are people in those communities, like Doreen said, who are trying to rein in these guys, trying to find their way back, and it's going to take a really long time to heal what's happening right now. These people have to shop at Sobeys together like it's a small community. It's so painful to see those histories and the really good work that has happened over the past 20 years to make good relations on the water, and that it's been falling apart in the last 3 years. And I want to say also, I don't know if this has been mentioned, it's been mentioned a little bit, but really this is the fault of the federal government for not upholding the Marshall decision correctly in the first place, for allowing people to believe that this fishing is illegal when it's not. They have a lot to answer for in making this mess, and a lot of really hurt in the community. But I wanted to share that story because not a lot of people know that story. And sadly, we don't have a lot of really great stories about being able to come together and really be in peace and friendship together where it really counts. And I hope that we can carry that story forward and do the work that it takes inside our own selves to be able to come together and be in support and be good relations and good neighbors and good ancestors in this place where we are guests. It's a privilege to be here. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you. Welalio.
Thank you so much for that story. I hadn't heard it before, and Joanna told me it was powerful, and it definitely was. And hopeful, too, that there could be a path forward, because there needs to be a path forward. I just want to say that it's wonderful to see so many of you here. I don't know how many there are, 500, 600 people, it seems like. It's important that we're here to send a clear message to the commercial fishing associations, to call off their members from the wharf, both in the water and on the land, and also send a clear message to the DFO that their contradictory messages on the legality of moderate livelihood fisheries are exasperating what are already really tense and violent situations. It's important that we're here because Mi'kmaq people are sustaining, in the last week and a half, tens of thousands of dollars in economic damage. And that isn't even counting the money that they're losing from not being able to fish for a moderate livelihood, right? That's not income, that's their traps and everything else that are being cut and taken. And this is all happening while authorities have pretty much sat idly by. It's important that we're here because governments at every level have used the right language in supporting treaty rights while doing nothing to hold people accountable who are actively blocking rights from being practiced. And this all too common chasm between words and action is just the epitome, it's more than just the epitome of the most cynical form of politics, right? It's systemic racism. It's systemic racism when Stephen McNeil says that, we believe in treaty rights, and by the way, if you block the moose hunt, that's illegal, while saying absolutely nothing about the illegality of the economic sabotage that is happening to Mi'kmaq fishers and has been happening over the last week. And I'm really excited to announce our next, not really speaker, but more of a performer, Deirdre Lee. She looks like I'm embarrassing her right now. I'm really excited because I haven't heard this before, but it's a cover version of Won't Back Down that she's gonna perform with backing guitar. And it's like that Tom Petty song, but instead it's Treaty People Won't Back Down. So I'd love to welcome Deirdre to the stage.
Just bear with us for 1 minute while we sort out some technical stuff. Maybe I'll take this opportunity to thank all the folks who are back here holding up these banners. Can we get some applause for them? Gotta like hold it up, not pull focus. It's not an easy job. So this is Kev, my guitar pal and protest boyfriend. That's his joke. Can't take credit. And somebody can probably, who's here, knows how many years that we've been doing the fundraiser for Alton Gas, like 4 or 5? 4? Thanks, Sadie. So for the past 4 years or so, Kev and I have performed, and I think nearly every year since the first one, we've done this song. I don't perform it a lot, otherwise or elsewhere, but that's all I'm gonna say, and now I'm gonna start singing, because otherwise, funny stuff might happen. Here we go, yeah. Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down. No, I'll stand my ground, won't be turned around, and I'll keep this world from dragging me down, but I'll stand my ground, and I won't back down. And I won't back down. Let's see if I can remember all the words to this. Treaty people treat each other right. Treaty people keep their goals in sight. Treaty people don't shirk the task at hand. Treaty people are protectors of the water and the land, because treaty people can feel our world shaking apart. And treaty people know some laws are for breaking, so let's start. Treaty people know water is life as truth, not catchphrase. Treaty people spend their dollars and spoons and days reconciling, decolonizing, working in solidarity. And to be clear, when I say treaty people, I mean all of you and him and them and me and everybody. We are all treaty people. That reality cannot be drowned. We have power as treaty people. All we have to do is not back down. Sing it. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, I stand my ground, and we won't back down. No, we won't back down. Thank you.
That was amazing. That sounded amazing. Really awesome. On the spot. Sound check that happened right there. Well, that is actually everything we had planned for y'all today. We're running a little bit late. We called it for 11 so that people could go check out the Taking Black Gottagen if they wanted to. I did get a request that, if anyone is able to offer rides to Soniaville, maybe come up on the stage, or, not on the stage, but come up to the stage as we're all starting to disperse, because there's maybe some people that want to go there. And is the basket still going around for cash donations?
Yeah.
Oh,
Go around. Yeah.
it's right there. So if you haven't put anything in, you can throw something in. Just to support our frontliners. And let's see. Do I have anything else to say here? Oh yes. Just that it doesn't stop here. We need to show solidarity. We're all treaty people. We need to show solidarity with the Mi'kmaq fishers right now because they are under attack. And that means that if you're part of an organization or whatever, have them write a statement, right? If you're part of a labor union, right? If you think of treaties as collective agreements, right? Then the DFO has been negotiating in bad faith for 21 years, right? So get some union support behind this. We need to build mainstream support to turn this tide around.
I just have a community request. Is there anybody that's going up to CKA Digby today that is coming back tonight? If you are, I'm asking people are gonna start putting up their hands. Come find me, I'll be over here. Thank you.
Yes, and so we need to raise funds for Sebaganegati as well to kind of make it so that they don't have to bear the brunt of all this economic sabotage they've been going through. Monica H at sebaganegati.ca. There's been a fact sheet that's passed around on the Facebook event. There's a printable PDF of that. And so I encourage you to use that to educate your peers. Because a lot of us know people down there, and a lot of us know people that might not be on the same page as everyone here. And I think that's it. It's really important that you came here today. I want to thank you for all coming. And yeah. Where are we?